I want to welcome everyone once again back to our meeting as we get started with our regular council meeting. First item is the minutes of the previous meetings. Any business arising or errors or omissions on the minutes? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve our minutes. Moved by Councillor Daigle, seconded by Councillor Irwin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We do need a motion to adjourn from regular meeting and go into public, including committee of adjustment. Councillor Daigle. Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Our first item on the agenda is notice of public meeting to consider application B3-2023 located at 2519 Mount Carmel Road. The owners are Jerry McCann Holdings Limited, and Jerry and Sherry are the applicants. Go ahead and start.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just going to put a map up for everybody. And the applicants are joining virtually,
Thank you.
from my understanding. All right, so the purpose and effect of the application is to sever a surplus farm residence with on a lot with a frontage of approximately 125 meters or 410 feet along Mount Carmel Drive or County Road 5, and an area of approximately 0.8 hectares or 1.97 acres from a parcel with a total area of approximately 20.5 hectares or 50 acres. The lands proposed to be severed contains a single detached dwelling, 2 accessory buildings being a shop and a barn, and are serviced by a municipal water connection and a private septic system. The accessory buildings are located in the rear yard to the east of the single detached dwelling, and the subject lands have existing access from Mount Carmel Road. The lands proposed to be retained contains agricultural land and crop production, and as part of the conditions of the severance application, an existing access will need to be verified or a new entrance be established for the lands to be severed. The provincial policy statement, county official plan, and the municipality's official plan generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas to dispose of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, subject to evaluation criteria. The North Middlesex official plan indicates that the severed parcels should generally only be as large as necessary to accommodate the on-site water and sanitary disposal facilities, and should generally be a maximum of 1 hectare or 2.5 acres in size. The intent of it requiring the parcels to be only as large as necessary to accommodate the dwelling and the services is to protect agricultural land. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed severed lot is considered to be larger than necessary to accommodate the dwelling and services, and as such recommends that the setback between the west lot line and the septic tile bed be reduced from 37.7 meters to 3 meters from the septic tile bed. And I'll just toggle to a different screen for you to get a better view of the property in a zoomed up fashion. And the size reduction I'm referring to is, again, between the east lot line here. So there's a distance between 37.7 meters from the east lot line and the end of the septic tile bed. My recommendation is to bring in that east lot line so that it is 3 meters from the end of the tile bed, which is the minimum distance required under the Ontario Building Code. Subject to the reduced lot size, planning staff are satisfied that the criteria for the surplus farm dwelling severance on the lands have been met or can be appropriately addressed via conditions of consent. Notice of the application has been circulated in accordance to the requirements of the Planning Act, and staff received the following comments. The chief building official noted that confirmation of the septic system to be wholly contained on the residential parcel, that the site be cleared of all debris which would be prohibited under the municipality's property standards bylaw, that the existing bank barn be removed or confirmed by a structural engineer that the bank barn is structurally adequate to be used for residential accessory storage, and a change of use permit is issued to reflect that change. that any areas used for livestock grazing or corral be removed, including fencing, and that the owner confirm to the municipality that any buildings remaining on the parcel will not be used to support a commercial or industrial or contractor use, contrary to what's permitted in the zoning. Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority has no concerns from a natural hazard perspective. The County of Middlesex engineer has requested that road widening be provided, if applicable, for the lands 15 meters from center line to the property if the right-of-way is not already to that width. Enbridge Gas recognizes that there is infrastructure in the area that may or may not impact the severance. The North Middlesex Public Works Department noted that there is water abutting the property lands and the dwelling is connected to it. Confirmed that there's an existing access to the dwelling on Mount Carmel. From a drainage perspective, a drainage reapportionment is required as a condition of consent. And I believe that's it from Public Works. So it is recommended that the application for consent be granted, subject to the conditions before council. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. At this time, I would ask the applicant if you would like to share remarks. Have we lost the applicant on this? Okay, do we have the applicant back now? Yep. Go ahead, just let me know. Okay, perfect. I don't know if the applicant can hear me at this time. I think you are muted right now. All right, here we are. How are you this evening? Can you hear us? We're not hearing you, Jerry.
Okay. I see you there.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. Basically, I just wanted to say the reasoning of my extra space to the west. I think it's still a little allowed to go to 2.5 acres. I know you normally like to go less, but I farm my land and I get Vinosh Farms to custom plant my farm. And they are the big headaches. They have a large planter, and Fred tells me that he can't get in that space that's left over. That is not going to be maybe approved. So my thinking is, I have a young fellow that wants to, and basically, I think that it'd be waste land if I don't get I don't think I'll use it. Either will the new lad that wants to own the property. It'll be wasted land. That's my whole evaluation of why I want to go to the west to Pat's property.
Okay,
Does that make sense? I'm sure. Have you heard me?
yep, yeah, we did. I think everybody could hear. Okay,
Okay.
yes. Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add, Jerry?
Other than I just feel that it's going to be not worth, it'll be terrible for me to have to keep up, keeping that piece of land cleaned up if the likes of Fred can't work it for me. That's about all I can think of. Thanks. I think Chuck and Stephanie were very helpful on this. And other than that, that's about all I can say.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. We
Okay.
have no written submissions for this. And there's no one here for public comments unless Brandon wants to say something. Questions from the committee? Yes. Counselor Daigle.
I'd just like to repeat some of the things for Jerry in case we didn't all hear it. He's going to be left with about 110 feet running back, 115 feet running back 200 feet. That is completely not usable for him. The people that work his land, their cultivators 70 foot across, their planters 90 feet across. They can't go up and turn around. They can't do anything with it. It'll just turn into scrub land, nuisance land, kind of. It's being put to its good use now. It's like a pasture field. I can't see why we're talking less than a quarter of an acre.
Okay,
So I'm in favor of supporting him
the way it's originally with the larger lot line.
as per the request.
Okay.
Yes, not reduce it.
Other questions, comments? Seeing no other questions, we do have a recommendation in front of us. Now, the recommendation is for the smaller lot line, correct?
So if I'm hearing correctly,
Yes.
so the recommendation would be I'm just scrolling to the conditions. The condition that you would not want to include in order to recognize what the applicant applied for is condition number,
I don't think it's in the conditions.
Huh.
It shows up in your
Your microphone, Chuck.
Oh, it shows up in the verbiage, but it doesn't show up in the conditions.
Oh, then it's all right to, as recommended? Okay. We have a recommendation in front of us. Were you moving it, Counselor Daigle? Okay, you're moving it. Counselor Keel, you're seconding? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now, we do have one other item, and that is notice of public meeting to consider application. I'm sorry, we have to adjourn the Committee of Adjustment and convene into public meeting. Need a motion for that. Counselor Keough, Counselor Daigle, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right. Now, our next item is notice of public meeting to consider application ZBA 3-2023 located at 2519 Mount Carmel Road. And once again, Stephanie.
thank you. So the applicant for 2519 Mount Carmel has submitted a concurrent zoning bylaw amendment application that's associated with the severance just discussed. The purpose of the application is to rezone the severed lands from the general agricultural A1 zone to the agricultural smallholding exception zone. And it is to recognize the height of the existing accessory building of 11 meters, whereas the maximum height permitted in the AG1 zone is 5.5 meters, as well as to recognize the residential use of the lands. The rezoning application also seeks to rezone the retained lands from the general agricultural zone to the general agricultural exception zone, and that's in order to prohibit residential use, permit a minimum lot frontage of 136 meters, whereas the minimum lot frontage required is 150 meters, and to permit a minimum lot area of 19.7 hectares, whereas the minimum lot area required in the A1 zone is 39 hectares. So staff have no concerns with the proposed rezoning application, and there are no additional comments that were received through circulation that were not already discussed as part of the severance application. So it is recommended that the rezoning application be approved in principle, limited to first and second reading only of the implemented bylaw, and further that the final reading is provided once the registered plan has been completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Once again, provision for the applicant's remarks. I'm sorry, we lost the applicant. We can see as the conversation goes on if there's questions for him. No written submissions on this. Public comment, no one's here. So council questions. No questions from council? I don't think he needs to come back. I don't think he needs to come back. No questions? You have a recommendation in front of us? Councillor Knellison, Deputy Mayor Hodgins. In favor? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. At this time, we need to we need a motion to adjourn public meeting and return to regular meeting. Councillor Daigle, Councillor Nerda, all in favor? Carried. At this time, delegations. Brandon, are you coming up here? Okay. She's not. Yeah, I was gonna say. All right, Brandon, would you like to make introductions here?
Yes, so Mayor Ott, members of council, with us, we have Dennis Kwan from Monteith Brown, as well as I believe Todd is also here from Monteith Brown. They will be talking to you guys about the consultation results. And then these are the results that they'll be building the draft master plan from. So if Dennis, if you are taking it away.
Thank you, Brandon. I just will start up our presentation. Can everyone see that presentation?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors, staff, and members of the public. My name is Dennis Kwan, a senior planner with Monteith Brown Planning Consultants, and we're here tonight to present the findings from phase 2 of the Recreation and Facilities Master Plan, which is the community engagement component. So we were last here in council in October, where we presented our findings from the background review. So tonight we'll be presenting what we heard from the community through the consultation activities that we've completed to date, and to discuss our next steps, which we will highlight through our presentation, and additional details about our consultation findings can be found in our report, which I believe is in your agenda packages. So to remind everyone about what the Recreation and Facilities Master Plan is, it's a key initiative of the municipality's corporate strategic plan to create a roadmap to address community needs and strategic priorities through an action plan. It will guide decision-making related to parks, recreation, and service delivery over the next 10 years, and inform other municipal processes, such as your capital planning process. The master plan will be addressing a variety of needs for indoor and outdoor recreation facilities, such as arenas, community meeting spaces, sports fields, playgrounds, parks, open spaces, and trails, as well as service delivery policies, programs, and practices. In terms of where we are in the planning process, as I mentioned, we completed our background review in phase 1, where we reviewed population projections, facility data, trends, inventory, and background documents to establish the existing local context. And over the past few months, we've been undertaking a number of community engagement activities. So now that we've completed phase 2, we can now report on what we heard from the community. So at this point in the process, there are no recommendations. What we're presenting tonight is what we've heard from the community. So it would be important to keep in mind that it's not what we're recommending at this time. So our next step in phase 3 is to consider all the background information and consultation findings to determine what it all means for the community and what are the true parks and recreation needs. So at that point, recommendations will be developed along with an implementation strategy, and everything will be compiled into a draft master plan. So once that's available, staff, council, and the public will have an opportunity to review and provide feedback on the draft master plan before it's finalized. The master plan is a community-driven process, so it's important to hear from residents and the stakeholders. So we've worked with staff to raise awareness about the master plan and to encourage the public to get involved, including establishing a project website, project webpage on the municipality's website, using the municipality's e-newsletter, promotion through community stakeholders, the library, local businesses, using social media, posters and signage within the community, as well as word of mouth. So to date, the consultation activities engaged more than 650 participants through our various consultation sessions, including our public open houses, the community survey, stakeholder focus groups, and a stakeholder questionnaire, as well as a staff workshop and interviews with key informants and written submissions. And as I mentioned before, once the draft master plan is available, there will be additional opportunities for public feedback. So two in-person public open houses were held in Park Hill and Elsa Craig. The purpose of the open houses was to raise awareness about the master plan. We had a number of display panels set up that presented key background information for the public to review, and as well as we had a number of questions for the public to respond to. So the public open houses provided an opportunity to let the public know that we're undertaking the master plan, as well as how they can get involved in the process, as well as encouraging the public to complete the community survey. So the community survey was active for about 6 weeks, and its main purpose was to collect public input on participation and preferences and priorities. We received 227 responses from across the municipality. And we asked respondents to complete the survey on behalf of their households. So in total, the data that we collected represented over 600 residents from all age groups, from children, youth, adults, older adults, and seniors. So because the survey was a voluntary survey and not random, the results are not representative of the entire population, but it's a helpful tool that provides us with data on what parks and recreation activities are important and what the priorities are. So the survey was available online in print. So we had copies available at the community center, the YMCA, library, and the local businesses in the community. So in the community survey, we asked the public what parks and recreation activities their household members participated in. Walking and hiking for leisure was the most popular recreation activity, and this was followed by enjoying parks and open spaces, attending special events, and using the splash pads and playground equipment. These activities are common. We typically see these activities at the top of the list in terms of what's popular, and this is consistent with trends that we've been seeing, where unstructured and passive activities are in high demand, as well as activities that can be done by all ages of the community and families. So as you move further down the list of activities, you'll see the organized sports, such as your ice sports, basketball, or baseball and soccer. And towards the bottom, you'll see more the niche activities that are more common among certain age groups like pickleball and skateboarding. So we asked the respondents if there are barriers that are preventing them from fully participating in parks and recreation activities. 19% of respondents said that they did face some form of barrier, the most common barrier being the lack of their desired program or facility. Other barriers included the lack of free time, or the program isn't offered at a convenient time, and or people just weren't aware of what was available. So through the master plan, we'll be looking at strategies that the municipality can consider to help assist with minimizing these barriers. So respondents had an opportunity to provide us with their request for what they would like to see offered in the community. And we've highlighted the top 10 results here. So the top results were for a swimming pool, trails, off-leash dog park, older adult programming, and indoor walking track. So again, these are not recommendations, but what we've heard from the community. So as we move forward with our needs assessments in the next phase, we'll be considering the merits of these facilities, as well as other facility types as well, taking into consideration of other factors such as population growth, trends and best practices found in other communities, as well as partnerships, funding models, and other considerations as well. Respondents rated what parks and recreation opportunities they felt were important to their household. Then they also rated their level of satisfaction for the parks and recreation opportunities that are available in the municipality. So generally, respondents felt that all the areas that we tested were important to them: indoor recreation facilities, trails, outdoor recreation facilities, and parks and open spaces for unstructured use. Residents all felt that these amenities were important to them. But when we look at the satisfaction levels for each of these areas, they were all lower than the level of importance that they place on them. So what this typically tells us is that their expectations are not being met, and that there's room for improvement. So the largest gap that we see is at the bottom, where respondents had a lower level of satisfaction for open spaces and parks for unstructured use. Respondents also identified their satisfaction levels with parks and recreation opportunities for each age group. Opportunities for children and families had the highest levels of satisfaction. And opportunities for youth and seniors had the lowest levels of satisfaction. But what we can see through each of the age groups is that there is room for improvement in each of the age categories. Respondents identified whether they supported or opposed additional public investment to improve existing facilities or to construct new ones. Trails were the top results, followed by playgrounds, splash pads, and acquiring new parks. And the top 5 of these amenities are commonly identified as the highest priorities, as again, they're the unstructured and passive activities and amenities that are in high demand, and ones that they can be used by all age groups or families. So again, as you move down the list, you'll see the organized sports facilities such as arenas, ball diamonds, and soccer fields, and the niche facilities such as your pickleball courts and skateboard parks, and other activities that are done by by specific age groups. In addition to the community survey, we undertook 2 stakeholder focus groups with community organizations to provide them with an opportunity to get their input on the master plan and to understand how the municipality's parks and recreation facilities can be improved to meet their needs. And a stakeholder questionnaire was sent out to all groups to collect their input if they were not able to attend our stakeholder sessions, they would still have an opportunity to provide input. So in total, we had 14 individuals representing 13 community organizations participate in the sessions or submit a survey that included sports groups, clubs, arts and cultural groups, and service organizations. We also held a workshop with frontline staff and undertook interviews with key staff, as well as members of council and the YMCA. And we've also reached out to local schools and the Conservation Authority for their input on the master plan as well. The purpose of these sessions was to gather local knowledge and experience from staff, municipal officials, and other representatives to identify key issues for the master plan to address, as well as project expectations and to generate buy-in for the master plan. So having reviewed all the public input that we received, we identified a number of common themes and findings that we heard from the discussions that we held with public stakeholders and staff and council. So there were many consistent themes that we heard. So as we continue to develop the master plan, we'll be mindful of these themes and ensure that they're reflected in the master plan. So there was a strong community pride in the parks and recreation activities that are available in North Middlesex. It's certainly highly valued in the community, and it's what makes the municipality unique. Having said that, there were requests for enhancing or providing new recreation amenities. Requests were made for tennis and pickleball courts, basketball courts, outdoor pools, off-leash dog parks, trails, outdoor space for outdoor education, fitness space, arts and culture, programming for older adults and youth, as well as special events. There's a strong demand for casual and unstructured activities for residents of all ages. And we clearly saw that come through the community survey results. The COVID-19 pandemic has certainly impacted how people participate in parks and recreation activities, but there's a strong interest for residents and community organizations to get active again in the community. Also recognizing that some people may not be ready yet for indoor recreation activities and close gatherings. Community organizations and volunteers are viewed as a strength in North Middlesex, but concerns were raised about the ability to attract and retain volunteers, particularly among the younger demographic. And continuing to support these organizations was suggested to ensure that they are successful. Enhancing and marketing of parks and recreation opportunities was suggested to raise awareness about what's available in the community. And trails are highly desirable in the community, with requests made for pathways within parks, as well as linkages between Park Hill, Elsa Craig, and Nairn. And requests were also made for accessible trails in appropriate areas. The topic of inclusive and accessible parks and recreation facilities, programs, and services was also mentioned to ensure that residents have an opportunity to participate. And the public felt that maximizing the use of existing spaces should be a priority. And where it makes sense, alternative uses should be considered if they are not needed to address other in-demand needs. So in terms of next steps, we'll be continuing to move forward with taking all of our background and consultation findings into consideration as we undertake our analysis to determine what are the needs for parks, recreation facilities, and service delivery, where recommendations will be developed, as well as an implementation strategy that prioritizes the recommendations based on short, medium, and long-term priorities. So all that information will be folded into the draft master plan. And once that's available for the public to review, it will be available for them to review and to provide feedback on before we come back to council. So with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Mr. Mayor for any questions that you may have or council may have.
All right, thank you very much, Dennis and Todd. Brandon, is there anything you'd like to add before I turn it over to council? Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from council? Councilor Cornelison.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. I want to commend you on a very comprehensive report, and I read it a couple of times. I found it to be very thorough and detailed. I do have a couple of questions though. My first question is, you identified that you had public meetings in Elsa Craig and Park Hill. What was the attendance at these locations? Could you share that number with us?
Yeah, I don't have the exact figures in front of me, but I believe we had about a total between the two sessions. I think we had about 10 or 12 people in attendance to those sessions.
So that'd be like 5 or 6 at each session?
Yes, correct.
Oh, that's relative. I'm surprised it's that low. I was hoping it'd be higher. It'd be higher. And I found it a little bit surprising that the community, if you will, indicated to you that the desire for splash pads when we currently have 2. I guess that's a reflection of the lack of communication or lack of awareness of the resources that are available.
It could be that may be one element of it. And as we move through the needs assessments, we'll continue to analyze what is there a gap in information? Do people not know about it? Or it could also be a matter of not necessarily providing more splash pads, or it could be a matter of enhancing what's currently available. So as we move through the needs assessment process, we will be taking that into consideration.
Great. That leads to my final question, and then I'll turn it over to my other members of council. And I'm assuming that you have a very detailed knowledge and awareness of all the resources that the municipality currently offers in Hants.
Yes, correct. So when we conducted our phase 1 background review, we would have analyzed, we took into consideration population growth. What are the trends in the parks and recreation sector currently? We looked at the inventory of what North Middlesex currently has in terms of where are the parks located, as well as what's within those parks and what's in the facilities as well. And we looked at the usage data of those facilities as well. So as we get into the needs assessment phase, we'll be evaluating what the municipality currently has, taking a look at are there areas for enhancements, as well as are there amenities that are missing that the residents that are looking for.
Just one more question, so I apologize for that. Will you also then, because you mentioned something about resources that are perhaps not needed, will you also be making recommendations to dispose of those amenities that are not required? We will be. It is an option that we may consider. At this point, we're certainly leaving all the doors open and all the options on the table. We do recognize that municipalities have finite resources, so we certainly want to ensure that your resources are being used effectively. So if we do find that there are amenities that are being underutilized or not needed, then there may be recommendations for repurposing amenities to address other needs. So that may be an option that we will be looking at. Thank you very much.
Other questions, comments from council? Councilor Irwin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Excuse me, through you. My colleague mentioned potentially demographic changes or shrinkage in population leading to resources perhaps being underutilized and not needed. Conversely, are you conducting a sensitivity analysis for future growth in the next 10 years to deal with a potential population expansion?
Yes, through you, Mayor, we are taking into consideration population growth. So we have been looking at population forecasts, and we recognize that with growth comes requests for parks and recreation amenities. So we certainly want to ensure that the municipality is positioned to respond to those needs. And parks and recreation opportunities are certainly something that new potential residents are looking for when they're looking for places to live in. So we want to make sure that the municipality is in a position to respond to those needs. And recognizing that it is a 10-year plan. So as you get further into the planning process, you may it may be a little bit more difficult to predict what those needs are. But through the master plan process, we will be including language about ensuring that population, that you are hitting those population targets before making investments in meeting needs for recreation in parks.
Okay, follow up.
Just on the same, in the same area. That's the challenge. I mean, the current demographics show we're graying and getting older in this community. And you can see that in terms of the passive recreation desires that came up in your survey. However, we're anticipating a younger or some younger population with the housing expansion. And I'm curious to see how you're going to fit that into your 10-year forecast.
And if I could jump in, that is part of the challenge in doing a master plan is looking at all the different age demographics and interests within your community. So certainly we recognize that the community is attracting new residents. Some of those are younger residents that will be looking for certain kinds of facilities or programs, whether they're offered by the YMCA or by your volunteer organizations. But we also recognize that the population is also getting older and looking at different types of activities. We know that when you get it to the older adult category, not all people have the same interest or abilities. So it's important to sort of look at a broad cross-section of interests. So we saw pickleball being identified. There'll be people that are unable to participate in that activity because of health concerns. So we'll be looking at other types of activities to keep people physically fit, mentally fit, and be part of your community. So we'll certainly be looking at that, Councillor, and it is part of the analysis. It's a challenge, but we're drawing upon a lot of years of experience and a lot of other communities that we can look at and what they've done.
Thank you. Other questions from council? Comments? No other questions? I would just add to it that I'm interested to see what just come up with for recommendations and findings on the concern of open spaces and unstructured activities. Do we have what we should have? Are we not getting the message out to people, or are we lacking in that? So I am interested to hear what we get to in that. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time and for your report. I look forward to the process to carry on.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you,
Have a good
councillors.
night.
Have a good night.
Good night. Brandon, is there anything you want to add to this time? I just want to give you that opportunity if you, okay, thank you. Next, we have departmental reports. And the first one is from our planner on the subdivision public meeting requirements. And the planner describes two options that can be taken by council regarding public meetings for subdivisions. So Stephanie, please go forward.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to provide council with information on the legislative changes to the Planning Act as a result of Bill 23, the More Homes Built Faster Act. And more specifically, this report will focus on examining the changes to the statutory public meeting requirements for plans of subdivision within the Planning Act and the implications from a public consultation perspective. So the Bill 23 received royal assent on November 28th, 2022, and is intended to support Ontario's Housing Supply Action Plan with a stated aim of increasing the supply of housing in the province. Bill 23 has made several legislative changes to various acts, including the Planning Act. One of the planning changes in effect as November 28th, 2022, is that public meeting requirements for plans of subdivision applications have been removed from the Planning Act. So it is noted that the requirement for public circulation of the notice of the application has not been removed or altered, meaning it's staying status quo. Therefore, the municipality would still continue to allow for written comments to be received and included as part of a council decision. The opportunity for oral comment, however, is no longer a mandated requirement of the Planning Act. That being said, the legislation does not prevent municipalities from having public meetings, making the decision to having one optional. So staff have prepared the following options for council's consideration. So option 1 would be that the municipality of North Middlesex requires plans of subdivision to be subject to a public meeting, or option 2, that the municipality of North Middlesex does not require plans of subdivision to be subject to a public meeting. And it is also noted that there have been no changes to the appeal rights for plans of subdivision as a result of Bill 23, meaning a member of the public will not be permitted to appeal a plan of subdivision, which is, again, no change. That's status quo. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Questions, comments for Stephanie on this? Councillor Daigle.
Did you, just a clarification, did you say a member of the public would not be able to appeal?
Through the mayor, that's correct. Yeah, that's the same as it is today. There is no appeal rights for members of the public on plans of subdivision.
Thank you.
Other questions? Comments for Stephanie? All right, Councillor Knellson. You sure? Go ahead.
I guess the only comment that I have is that personally, I feel that there is value in hearing from the public in all planning matters. I believe it is, because certainly it does have an impact on their lifestyle, you know, and I think that there's evidence of that with a number of situations that occurred not only locally, but in surrounding municipalities as well. So I don't see, is there anything detrimental in terms of continuing with the public input?
Through the mayor to the councillor, not in my opinion. It is more common than not that a plan of subdivision is submitted concurrently with a rezoning application, for example, which does actually still require a statutory public meeting. So I don't see many time delays associated with, I guess, not requiring or requiring, either way.
Other comments, questions? All right, what is council's wish? Councillor Daigle?
I'd like to move that we stick with option 1, where we hold a public meeting, at least hear their concerns.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Nerda. Other comments on it? In favor of that? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Stephanie. Our next report is from the manager of infrastructure, but I think, Estelle, you're going to take this on the Fernhill Drive culvert failure and road closure.
Thank you, Your Worship. So as most of you know, on February 10th of this year, there was a sinkhole on one of our boundary roads with Middlesex Center. Now, back to September, Middlesex Center had advised us that this particular culvert was failing and it was in need of a rework or thank you. For our 2023 budget, there was a capital project designed or entered as the design aspect only for the replacement of this culvert, and it was slated in at $21,000 and change. Now, because of this sinkhole that happened in February, the Middlesex Center is now bringing the construction of this culvert replacement forward to 2023, when it was in the long range to do it in 2024. We have been in communication with Middlesex Center, and they have advised us that our portion of the cost for the replacement of this culvert would be $135,000 over and above the $21,000 that we've already put aside for or approved for the design of the culvert replacement. I do not have a breakdown of the costs associated that Middlesex Center has estimated. I do have in front of me, however, an email from Andrew Geisen, Giesen, Giesen from Middlesex Center, to Jaden, our manager of infrastructure. And in the email, it says that when the design RFPs are in, we will send the submissions your way for review and discussion. They have been tendered as a best value award and are expected to close March 1st, which is today. So we will have more information in the very near future in regards to the cost for this culvert replacement.
Okay, just a question on this before I go to council. One, we've always had a good working relationship with Middlesex Center, and I have total faith in them on that, but this here project, what do they figure is the construction time? When do they think completion would be or hope to be?
I don't have any details
So
in
hopefully that
regards to
comes
that,
with,
but it will be definitely sooner rather than later
Okay.
because that road is currently closed.
And the other question I would have, the $135,000, would that come out of reserve?
My recommendation would be to have it come out of our federal gas tax funds.
Okay, thank you. I'll turn it to council for questions. Councillor Keough?
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Estelle, can you tell us what we have in our federal gas tax account now? Off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, we have about 1.3 million less the 575,000 for the rolling road rehab capital
Right.
project.
Okay.
So we would have about 700,000.
Okay. With this substantial amount for this culvert replacement, and it in fact closed today, could we defer this until such time as we get some clarification as to the breakdown or justification of charges? It just seems to be an awful lot of money for a culvert that's 16 feet wide. A steel culvert on a road that is not well traveled. Until we have some more information from Middlesex Center, could we defer this until we have some more information?
If that is council's wish, we certainly can. I'm not sure at this point if Jaden has received a breakdown of the costs, but I'm sure in the RFP responses, the costs will be broken down a lot more. So we would have more information to give you at next council meeting.
I guess the reason why I'm asking that is the information that was provided to us earlier was in the $135,000 range, but that, looking at the inspection, that was done 1 year and 4 months ago. And that was the price then. I'm expecting it to be more again. So before we amend a budget and then have to come back for more, maybe we should get a final figure on this before we agree to anything. And actually, when we see the tenders come back, we'll have a better idea as well. I know that we are, certainly have a good agreement with Middlesex Center, and it is a cost share project. And I think all of council will agree to that moving forward, but it just seems like an awful lot of money to cut loose right now.
Understandably so. And with the RFP closing today, like I say, we will have more information to bring forth to council in 2 weeks' time.
Okay, thank you.
And with that, we'll have more of a completion time and everything else.
Correct.
As well. Other comments, questions from council? Okay, Councillor Keough, were you making a motion?
Making a motion for that.
Okay, motion to defer at this time to get more
Exactly,
information?
yes.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Daigle. Sure, I didn't look that way, Bill. I will next time. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Thank you. Next one is passing of accounts.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report out in front of you outlines the municipality's expenses for the period of February 10th through to the 23rd, totaling $1,767,342. The one question that I have received is you will have noticed in the details of the payments that there was an acronym utilized, RAWP, and that stands for Road Allowance Work Permit. So when a work permit is purchased, they also put in a deposit that is returned to them once the road has been put back in its original state, and that the payments that you see are refunding those deposits. And I now open the floor to questions.
Questions from council? Councilor Irwin, then Councilor Keel.
Yeah, in terms of page 7, your worship, through you, where are we at with the Park Hill Main Street project? What percentage of the work is done to date?
I don't know that off the top of my head. And unfortunately, Jaden is not here today, but we can take down that question and send out the information via email.
Thank you.
Councilor Keel.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Estelle, McLaughlin Insurance for $449,000. I know in the previous meeting, whether it was the last one or the one before that, we had inquired as to having some type of presentation brought forward to us for that. Understandably, insurance has to be paid and it will be paid. But have we any further information on a presentation from Intact Insurance on this? Just
At this point, I do not, but I will reach out to Intact and see if they have, and I apologize, that completely fell off my radar.
thank you.
Okay, so maybe we can still get Tony to come out.
Absolutely.
All right, other questions on the accounts? No other questions on the accounts? We need a motion to accept the following accounts payable report as information only. Councilor Nerda, Councilor Daigle, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Committee reports. Lake Huron Primary, Councilor Keel,
Mayor Rob, I have a meeting tomorrow afternoon.
tomorrow afternoon.
That's right.
ABCA, Councilor Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Roth. Yes, I'd just like to mention that Marissa Vaughn has been elected as chair of the board. I'd also like to make a comment that I don't know if we've taken this step yet, but we need to invite the general manager and treasurer or whatever to come and make a presentation to council on the changes in the Saba Bayfield Act and how that impacts on our municipality with the Category 3 services. So I don't believe we've extended that invitation yet, but I would hope that we can do that in the near future.
Okay, all right. I think our clerk has taken that down as we speak. Thank you. Any questions for ABCA? None at this time. Blue Water Recycling,
Nothing at this time.
Economic Development?
We
Councilor
had our first meeting, February 16th, myself appointed chair, deputy, Councilor Irwin, vice chair.
Okay. that's all
And
right.
we have a great group of small business and business owners that I'm looking forward to working with.
So you had a good first meeting? Excellent.
It was a great first meeting.
Excellent. Local School Advisory. Have we got a committee formed on that yet?
Your worship, the deputy mayor and myself are in consultations of getting that started.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Recreation Committee.
We have yet to have our first meeting.
Yet by the end of the month? Oh, okay. So late February, you're going to have that meeting. Sorry, I guess it's really late February, isn't it? 1st of March. That's right. Okay, so late March. All right, thank you. Policy Review Committee. Councilor Daigle.
We had a meeting earlier today on that. We have a few policies that will be coming forward to council shortly. But at this time, nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Fire Committee.
Thank you, Mayor Rob. Yes, we had a very interesting tour of the construction phases of the new fire hall and the land ambulance building that's going up across the street. It was impressive to see the progress that they have made, and they continue to work. They've made a great deal of progress because of the mild winter. I think they've done a great job, and it'll be exciting to see it when it's in completion. Other than that, we did have a presentation from Fire Marquee, and I think more information will be coming to council on that at a later date.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for that? Anything you want to add to that about the tour, Brandon? Thank you very much for putting that together for us.
Yeah, and K&L was great to come after hours and do that for us. So I think it was important that everyone see where we're at and just kind of get a picture of where things are going.
So can I ask a question following up the tour? The roof. When is the plan to have that buttoned up?
So we had a site meeting today. I think that everyone's in agreement on what's to come next. They're just reviewing their drawings. If they have any issues with the drawings, K&L is reviewing them right now. Basically gave them the green light if they're happy with the drawings to get started, and we figure out the financial impact after.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Community Development Fund Committee? Not me. Who is the chair?
You?
We did not. So we did meet yesterday. Yes, yesterday afternoon. Thank you. And it was Councillor Nerda, Councillor Cornelison, and myself. And we did go through through all of the applications, and we came in $500 under budget. I think the budget was 85,000 total, and we came in at 84,500. And so that's just to me, it just shows there's a lot of activities going on again in our community. And these are all volunteer groups and service groups and different groups within our community that do a lot of things for us. So that's actually good to see all those applications. And I thank the other members of the committee for their time on it. I think did a good job, and that will be coming, I believe, on the 15th to council. Is that right, Richard?
That will be the plan.
Okay, so we'll bring it through for the 15th to get that so that we can get the funds out to where they belong. All right. And Aqua, I don't think, is there anything there? Okay, correspondence. The municipality of Shania? I think it's Shania. Opposition to Bill 3, Strong Mayors, Building Homes Act, and it was now proclaimed into law. Amberley Gravel Limited Services available. Receive and file. Township of Ashfield, Walburn, Wabanash, Town of Essex, endorsed position of Town of Petrolia School Board elections. Receive and file. Municipality of West Nipissing, concerns on Bill 23, now proclaimed into law. McGilvery Home and School request to waive facility rental fee. And Brandon, I believe you're going to speak on this one.
Yeah, Mayor Ropp, members of council, the chair of the McGilvery Home and School Board came and requested that the rental fee for the Elsa Craig Rec Center for a fundraiser dance that they're holding be waived. I suggested that they write a letter for that. They are trying to raise funds for a playground at McGilvery School. As you may be aware, school boards put $0 into playground equipment at the schools. It is up to home and school boards to fundraise for them. This playground also services the community of West McGilvery there, surrounding area. That playground gets used obviously in off hours by kids in the area. My suggestion would be that if we are to waive it, that we do keep the alcohol surcharge and insurance surcharge as costs, because those are both needed. Whereas the actual fee itself, if we were to waive that wouldn't affect us nearly as much as the alcohol and the insurance that goes with that.
Okay, thank you. Questions on this? Comments? What's your thoughts on this? Councillor Cornelison, you first, and then Councillor Nerda.
Thank you, Mayor Ropp. I would support the request, and certainly I appreciate Brandon's position on the alcohol and insurance. I believe that is appropriate. So, and then we also have a policy to support our schools, and I think that this is a good step in that direction.
Thank you. Councillor Nerda.
I was going to agree with Brandon's recommendations.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any questions? No? Go ahead, Brandon.
I will just mention further that in the future, right now, the agreement to send to the Thames Valleys and the London District Catholic School Board is with county legal. Once approved, this group, if it is council's wish to have home and schools included in that agreement, currently it's just the school boards themselves. If we want to include the home and schools, I believe that they put on some events as well. That can be written into the agreement before it is finalized.
Yeah, they're the ones who do the community events, correct? The home and school are the ones responsible for that.
That is correct.
Okay. So anyone else, comments, questions? If not, we have a request for to waive the rent facility fee. Are you moving that, Councillor Daigle? Seconder, Councillor Nerda? In favor? Carried. Next one, the VON, Victorian Order of Nurses. Thank you for our support. CN Watson Newsletter 12, Planning for Ontario's Housing Needs. Receive and file. Township of ACW Voters List, Permanent Register of Electors. Yeah, I cheated on that one. Councillor Keel,
I'd like to support that.
seconder on that.
Have a comment.
Okay, are you seconding it as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
The comment I'd like to add to that is while I wish to support this, I also feel that we need to compose our own correspondence directly to the minister responsible for the voters list, because it's had a severe impact in our municipality in particular. And I think that there's we need to acknowledge that, and we need to pursue it to be so that the voters list is far more accurate.
thank you, Councillor. I agree with that. Send our own letter, not just support someone else. Agreed. Other comments? We have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Daigle, do you have something you wanted to add?
We also at one time talked about having MPAC here to discuss these issues.
We do have that on the list for them to come. Okay,
I would agree.
any other questions or comments before we vote on this? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. And with that is for us to send a letter as well, right? With the motion? Okay. Thank you. The last one is Township of Adelaide Metcalf, the official plan review and the public notice. Other and urgent business, Aqua endorsement of operational plan, request to endorse plan forthcoming from meeting of February 15th. An executive summary has been developed and it is provided as requested. Estelle.
Thank you, Your Worship. So if you remember at the February 15th meeting, Aqua presented their quarterly report and a bunch of other things. And at that time, they asked for our endorsement, a signed endorsement of their operational plan. And they were asked to provide a summary of the 92-page document outlining what the operational plan was. So attached to the agenda is their summary of the operational plan. The reason they need a re-endorsement is because of the addition of the water tower in Elsa Craig, because that is now part of their operational plan that it wasn't before. So they just need us to endorse the fact that this water tower has been added to the operational plan.
Any questions on that? Councillor Irwin.
I'm not opposed to the endorsement, Your Worship, but I think I would like to give them a lesson on how to write an executive summary, because this is not an executive summary, but that's okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay, because I do this for a living. This is not an executive summary. This is simply highlighting key areas. Executive summary has recommendations, dollar amounts. I mean, you condense everything into one page.
So are you asking them
No,
to take
this
it
is
back?
fine. This is fine, but I'd be happy to give them a lesson on how to write an executive summary.
Well, no, let's just deal with this.
All right. But this is fine.
All right, we have a recommendation in front of us. Councillor Daigle, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hodgins. In favor? Carried. Deferred items from the previous meeting. Surplus properties, administration of the council and committee's vaccination policies. We did look at that today. There will be a slight adjustment policy coming before council on that. The lagoons, the request for municipal emails received on personal phone, that policy will be coming forward to council as well. We talked about that one today. Request for the urban design guidelines. Communications, including county council. The highlights, I believe they came out, right? Everybody got a copy of the highlights from the council. Councillor Knellson.
Yeah, I do have a question on that, Mayor, if I may. And that's the very last, not the very last item, the second last item, the wedding bells for culinary catering sublease renewal. Is that lease with the county or is that with York Developments?
with the county.
Oh,
It, at this time, is still with the county.
okay.
As long as we're in this current lease, it stays with the county. We can sublease to our. Okay. Any other questions for the county at this time? I would just add that the committee should have their final meeting tomorrow, or Friday, sorry. And then it will be going, the budget will be going to county council at the next county council meeting in the morning. We'll have a budget meeting. So, reading of the bylaws.
Thank you, Worship. There are a series of 10 bylaws on the agenda for tonight. And I will go through them. Bylaws number 027 to 030 and 032 of 033 are recommended for, bylaws 027 to 033 and of 2023 are recommended to be read a first and second time. And one bylaw is being withheld, which is the planning bylaw for the zoning amendment for third reading. That's being withheld tonight. So through the bylaws, 15.1, 027 and 2023, appoint clerk, Ashley Kwarciak. 028 of 2023, appoint a deputy clerk, Richard Beachy. 029 of 2023, appoint division registrar and issuer of marriage licenses, Ashley Kwarciak. 030 of 2023, appoint a lottery licensing officer, Ashley Kwarciak. 031 of 2023, which is a zoning bylaw, 2519 Mount Carmel Road, first and second reading only. 032 of 2023. Sorry. Authorize the civil marriage solemnization services. And 033 of 2023 council proceedings.
First, second, Counselor Daigle, Counselor Keough, all in favor? Carried. Third and final. Counselor Irwin, Deputy Mayor Hodgins, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Just one more motion to go, and that is to adjourn. Counselor Nerda, Counselor Keough, all in favor? Carried. Thank you, everyone.